were called upon, the gavel struck. Judge Thomas dared to challenge my presidency. The words echoed, Traoré is in violation, his mandate illegitimate. But what he meant as a blow exploded in his face.
The Gulfstream's wheels touched down under cover of night, its engines humming low like a whisper against the silence of Sahel. There were no runway lights, no tower communications, just a strip of black tarmac deep in the outskirts of Ouagadougou, used only by those whose arrivals weren't meant to be recorded. The tail number of the aircraft, registered in the Cayman Islands, didn't match the jet it cloned. In Washington, it was just another ghost on the radar. Inside the plane sat a single passenger, Virginia Thomas, better known in the corridors of conservative power as Ginny. She carried no passport, no entourage, and no official agenda, only a black duffel bag, a satellite phone in case of Mylar, and a mission that no one in the U.S. government could ever publicly admit existed. She stepped off the plane into dry air laced with dust. Her black blazer clung tightly to her frame, more functional than fashionable, designed for movement, not comfort. From the darkness beyond the runway, headlights flickered on. An SUV rolled forward, its windows tinted, unmarked. A soldier in plain fatigue stepped out. No words were exchanged. The door opened. She climbed in without hesitation. She knew where she was going, though not exactly what awaited her. Back in D.C., only a handful of people even knew she was gone, and fewer still understood why. The stakes weren't just high, they were unspoken. At 63, Ginny Thomas had long been a force behind the curtain. She wasn't elected, but she didn't need to be. Her name unlocked back doors across Capitol Hill, from a Heritage Foundation to clandestine dinners at the Hay Adams. She had influence, but now she needed more than that. She needed a deal. Captain IBRAHIM Traoré had become a problem. Since taking power in Burkina Faso through a swift and bloodless military coup, the young captain had positioned himself as the face of a new anti-imperialist movement. In the West, his name was usually preceded by words like warlord autocrat or instigator. But in West Africa, he was increasingly seen as a liberator. His rejection of France's neocolonial hold, the expulsion of Western NGOs, and the opening of resource contracts to non-Western nations had marked a dangerous pivot in the region's geopolitical balance. American interests, both official and unofficial, were on edge. The lithium field in the south, the untapped gold veins in the east. These were assets that certain private U.S. interests considered strategically essential. When it became clear that Traoré wasn't going to play ball, those same interests began to look for a different kind of emissary. Ginny volunteered. It was bold, reckless, some said, but she understood the game. Traoré didn't trust governments, but he respected power, especially the kind that came in unofficial packaging. The SUV pulled into a walled compound on the edge of the city, part military, part palace. Inside, guards with French-made rifles eyed her cautiously. A few recognized her face from the intelligence briefings they received the night before. No one expected a woman like her to come in person. Traoré met her in a candlelit room. Power was intermittent here, and he preferred it that way. There was no microphone, no translator, only the two of them, and the soft hum of a ceiling fan turning with occasional spasms. He did not rise to greet her. "You're far from home," he said, voice low and deliberate, the French lilt in his English carefully measured. She took her seat across from him without smiling. "Home is wherever decisions are made." He studied her. "And you believe they're made here?" "They will be," she replied, "or at least the next phase of them." She placed a black folder on the table between them, unmarked. He did not reach for it. "I'm not here on behalf of the U.S. government," she said. "I'm here representing interests that don't want you dead." That got his attention. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. "They're already planning that?" he asked. "They always are," she said. "But the smarter ones want a relationship, not a regime change." He smirked, though it didn't reach his eyes. "And who do these smart ones represent?" "Investors," she said. "People with resources. People who understand that the future runs through Africa, and they want you to be a partner, not a problem." The conversation stretched into hours. Tea was served, then whiskey. By the time the first call, the prayer echoed faintly from the outskirts of the city. A tentative outline had been drawn. The deal was audacious. Ginny's network, backed by a loose coalition of ultra-conservative think tanks, defense contractors, and private capital, would facilitate covert funding flows into Burkina Faso. On paper, the investments would appear to come from a network of development-focused companies, public health initiatives, clean energy startups, agritech ventures. In reality, they were shells engineered to funnel resources to military-friendly infrastructure projects, surveillance capabilities, and mining operations. In return, Traoré would grant selective resource access, not the highest bidders, but to those willing to play the long game. And more importantly, he would contain Russian influence in the region, not by severing ties, but by managing the optics. Wagner operatives would be pushed further underground. Official partnerships would be publicly minimized. The region would appear to swing back toward neutrality, even as it remained a battleground for foreign exploitation. But that wasn't all. Ginny floated something darker, a whispered contingency. If the West intelligence community got too close, if diplomatic pressure mounted, or if a coup against Traoré began to form from rival officers, her network could provide tools, real tools, untraceable weapons, AI-based targeting software, signal jamming tech, all off-book, all tested in the shadows of other proxy wars. Traoré sat back, silent. "You're asking me," he said finally, "to accept the same poison, just in a different vial." Ginny's eyes didn't blink. "No, I'm offering you the chance to build something real, a Pan-African stronghold, but not alone." He lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, and watched the smoke curl toward the ceiling. Outside the compound, the sky had turned pale. Another day in Ouagadougou. She left without ceremony. The SUV returned her to the airstrip before noon. The Gulfstream departed without registering a flight plan. By the time it crossed into European airspace, the onboard transponder flickered back online, re-identifying the plane as a humanitarian diplomatic vessel en route from Geneva. Back in D.C., Ginny landed with more than she had left with. The sat phone contained a single message from Traoré's aide, one word, encrypted through an Algerian routing protocol. Agreed. But not everyone in the network was pleased. A week later, a meeting took place in a private residence in Georgetown. Attendees included a retired CIA liaison, a former deputy secretary of energy, and a founder of a conservative data analysis firm with deep Pentagon ties. They reviewed the terms Ginny had negotiated. Some felt she had promised too much. Others believed Traoré couldn't be trusted. But no one was willing to walk away from the opportunity. The rare earths alone were worth billions. Unknown to Ginny, her trip had triggered ripples across multiple agencies. An analyst at AFRICOM flagged unusual SIGINT.